everyone, I'm Megan Prunty. I am a registered massage therapist and a yoga teacher here at the Coach House. Today we are going to go through some stretching for your upper leg. So we're going to start by working on the quadricep muscles. This is a group of muscles that collectively runs from the top of your thigh, coming down through the front of the leg, attaching through your knee to just the bottom here. So to stretch it, we're going to get this area nice and long. So the easiest way to start is in a lunge. I like to start hands underneath my shoulders. I'm going to bring my other leg between my feet, and with my back leg, just pushing my knee back until I can feel a steady line of pull straight down the leg. It's important to keep your hips squared and your belly button pointing towards the front of the room. And I can just gently lean forward, keeping that nice steady lean. In our front leg, it's also important to keep this knee stacked on top of the ankle. Sometimes as we soften into a stretch, we can go deeper. If that's the case, just keep wiggling these toes a little bit further. Helps to distribute the weight a little more evenly through the body. So stretching here, feeling that nice steady stretch coming in through the back of the thigh. If you want to bring rec fem, which is one of the quadricep muscles, into line of tension, you can bring your hands up onto your thigh and just gently standing up. Again, you want to be careful to keep your hips pointing forward. We tend to want to open up to the side a little bit. So where you are, holding your stretch for 30 seconds, and then coming down. And we're going to move into our adductor muscles next. These muscles are the muscles that follow like the pant seam on the inside of the thigh. So they come from the inside of the pelvis, and then different muscles plug in at different lengths down the side of your leg. So we'll start with a general stretch. Do this kneeling. If you have sensitive knees, you can always place a towel underneath, gives a little extra padding. What you want, the leg you're stretching is going to come out to the side. So if you were to look at me from over here, you wouldn't be able to see my leg at all. My toes are pointing straight out and away. I'm going to get you to grab your hands and hold onto the front of your hip bones. You're going to feel those two bumps. What we want is that pelvic bowl should be nice and steady. So as we lean forward, I want you to think of tipping your pelvis like a bowl. There will be a tendency to kind of want to open to the side, so you have to think really evenly about keeping your hips in line. So we're going to hold our hands on here. Foot's going to stay planted on the floor, hinging forward at the hips. Trying to keep my pelvis nice and level. If it feels good, you can reach down for the floor. And just letting that line of pull come in through the inside of the leg. We're going to hold that for 30 seconds or so. Nice steady stretch, your hands can support you. And there are several muscles through the adductor group. So once you've hung out here for about 30 seconds or so, I like to isolate adductor magnus. This is sort of half adductor and half hamstring. So to get in, we're going to change just the foot position. So I'm going to take my toes, I'm going to curl them up towards the ceiling and just wiggle my foot a little bit longer. So I feel that line of pull. It's still on the inside of my leg, but it's also coming a little bit into the back of my leg with toes straight up towards the ceiling, still bending forward, isolating into this muscle. You can hold here for 30 seconds. And at the end of your 30 seconds, you're going to gently come back up. You can bring your knee back into the center. Of course, you'd want to do the other side. We're going to go right into one more really common stretch for the adductors. This one will be done sitting down. And we're going to take the soles of our feet in front of us, and knees are nice and wide. Don't worry about how high up your knees come. Sometimes that just has to do with how the femur bone sits inside the pelvis and has nothing to do with stretching. Sometimes people get discouraged here. It's okay. Let your knees fall where they will. The other important part about this stretch before we move is you want to make sure you're sitting right on top of your ischial tuberosities, or right on top of the bones of the pelvis. So the easiest way to see if you are, reach back, give yourself a little tuck, make sure all the squishy stuff is out of the way, and then you're going to stretch really tall through the spine and hinge forward at the hips. As you start to come forward, you're going to feel that stretch coming in through the inner thighs. And as you come forward, you'll notice the back starts to round. Tuck your chin in. It's nice to let the upper neck release here, hanging out here for 30 seconds. Particularly if you sit a lot, these muscles tend to get very tight. So really take the time to drop into your breath, breathe into those tight spaces. Whenever we're stretching, we want to find a soft and comfortable edge instead of pushing through. The goal is to make yourself feel better, not worse. And then from here, we're going to come back up. Those are your basic stretches for your adductors, and now we're going to move into our hamstrings. So hamstrings are big muscles. They come from the top of the pelvis and they cross the knee. In order to stretch them, we have to get all of those joints involved. So the easiest way I find is come to lay flat on your back. And what we need here is to get the knee straight. So if it's difficult to get the knee straight, or if you find you're really having to do a lot of reaching, this is where your strap or handy dandy belt is good. We're going to take a nice flat edge of our strap, take it across the toes, and you're kicking your heel straight up towards the ceiling. So it's important here, you can see that my knee is straight and I am gently pulling my leg towards me. My shoulder blades are still on the floor, my upper body is relaxed. Your other leg can stay with a bend through it, as mine is now, or you can let it go long. That's really personal choice, whatever feels better. What's more important is we see that the knee here is straight and we've got that nice line of pull, everything coming towards me, but also I'm pushing up through my heel, really stretching through the hamstrings. So for a general hamstring stretch, you would stay here for 30 seconds. To isolate, because we have two different chunks of the hamstrings, right? We have a lateral or an outside hamstring and a medial or an inside hamstring set. You can play with your toes. So again, you want this nice general straight line, and then to activate these internal hamstrings, we're going to take our toes and we're going to pull them in towards the center of the body. It's not a very big movement, our knee doesn't tend to move that way, but this is isolating these muscles of the hamstrings. You can stay here. You'll notice I'm holding my strap with the opposite hand just to help bring a little more torque. Holding here for 30 seconds before switching sides. To get to the outside of the hamstrings, on this side of the leg, your toes are going to turn out towards the side body. You can already see there's way more range of motion. My heel is still pulling up towards the ceiling. Nice long line of pull. So holding here for 30 seconds. And then you can release your strap. The other way would be to do this with your hands folded behind your thigh. But again, if it's difficult to keep the knee bent, you have much more range with the strap. And that will conclude our upper leg section of stretching.